And joining us now with further analysis of the State of the Union address is Susan Crabtree, political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Susan, always great to see you. A lot to unpack here, but first, your impressions of the president's speech and what stood out to you last night.
Well, the White House has been touting it as a unity speech, but it was really one of the most rancorous speeches I've ever witnessed. You had Republicans shouting out at the president, kind of like you do in Britain and England. It was. You have had very interesting speeches in the past where there's been division. When Pelosi ripped up Trump's speech, that stands out. But this one was actually throughout the speech. There was just much more a back and forth than you've ever seen before. I thought it was sort of a split screen situation again. Democrats liked the speech; they thought he was vigorous.
Fentanyl is killing.
So it was an interesting thing. But in terms of Republicans, what the Republicans thought, they thought just the opposite, that it wasn't a unity speech at all. It was very divisive.
Yeah, and there were a lot of guests there. Among the president's guests last night, a couple who sadly lost their daughter to a fentanyl overdose. And as the president told their story and laid out various solutions, a number of Republicans chimed in rather loudly. We're going to play that clip.
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border.
All right, Susan, your reaction at that moment, it wasn't the only time, as you mentioned, that some, in the GOP really shouted their objections during the State of the Union.
Yeah, I think it was because it was a sins of omission that was the problem with Joe Biden's speech for the Republicans. They thought, okay, you want to have a new plan for the immigration, you want bipartisan cooperation, you're talking about fentanyl being a scourge. Well, why haven't you done anything about it beforehand? And the same thing goes with he's talking about bringing down prescription drug prices for seniors and providing hearing aids for them. But in most of America, in the last few months, seniors have had to pay extraordinarily high natural gas prices that have been hundreds of dollars more and cutting into their budget on fixed incomes. And you didn't see much talk about inflation. So it was really the things that he left out of the speech that are going wrong with the country that Republicans objected to, as well as the issue of the charge that that Republicans want to sunset Medicare and Social Security. That has been disproven by the Washington Post. The Washington Post has given that charge for Pinocchios, but he continues to make the charge in these big public political events. And so Republicans said, no, we're not going to take it. We're not going to just let that stand out there without barking down at the president. So it was very contentious for a speech that was supposed to be about unity.
Yeah, and Susan, I want to talk about the rebuttal now from the Republicans. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she really made her own strides last night with that rebuttal. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden. From out-of-control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China. Biden and the Democrats have failed you.
Susan, your reaction?
Well, I thought it was a very strong speech. I've never seen any kind of a speech that was, usually these rebuttals are very difficult to do. They don't get as much attention as a president coming back and addressing all of Congress. So some people have fallen because of that. Their star has fallen, but hers is rising. Among Republicans, they thought it was a very common sense oriented speech. She said the division in the country is really between common sense, normal, and crazy. And she went after Democrats and the president for embracing the woke culture. And she actually said that the presidency has been hijacked by the far left. And so it's very DeSantis-esque, striking some of the same cultural division themes that he has and hit during his governorship that has been made him so popular.
Susan, we have probably about 30 seconds left or so, but any final thoughts?
Well, I do think that Biden was trying to reset after going after MAGA Republicans in previous speeches, trying to show that he can go ahead and run again if he so chooses. That decision is still up in the air as far as we know. But the polls show that even though Democrats gave this speech high marks, the public is very divided and really does not want him to run again. In a Washington Post recent poll, some 60%, including Democrats, do not want the president to run again. So while Democrats gave this high praise, I think the public still, the jury is out about what they think of his first 2 years and whether they want another 4.
All right, Susan, we're going to leave it right there. Always great to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks so much, Tracy.